Hello, you guys. Welcome back to Passenger Princess, where we talk about mental health and self care in unconventional ways. And I want to stress the unconventional part of the podcast. I always have to do this every episode because we are bad bitches. We are passenger princesses on this podcast. And yeah, we talk about things in unusual ways, which is always a fun thing. I feel like people are sometimes so stereotypical and bland, and I don't want to be that. So what is up, you guys? You're now tuned in to Passenger Princess, the one and only source for finding your self-worth. You want to know how to play the game? Let me tell you, baby, we're here to play. And everybody's gonna think I'm a bad bitch. I'm a passenger princess. I'll do anything. Everybody does things for me. This episode, we're gonna be digging into whether love is really blind. Is love blind? I don't know. We are diving deep into the show Love is Blind. All right, pause, guys. Editing Megan here. I filmed this prior to season 5 dropping, and boy, do I have shit to say after watching the couple of episodes that have come out. So stay tuned because I'm definitely going to be doing a follow-up episode after this. I honestly feel like I predicted the future, and I definitely want to talk about it because there's a lot to break down here. So listen to this episode knowing that I haven't watched season 5 yet. This was all just stream of consciousness, not watching the latest season. Okay, enjoy. I absolutely adore this show. I think it's one of, honestly, my favorite reality shows just because I feel like it's such an interesting concept. We've had The Bachelor variation many times. We've had Love Island. We've had Too Hot to Handle. We've had all those variations. So I find this super interesting because it is very unique. The amazing success it's had, but also the recent kind of lawsuit and allegations against the practices of Netflix reality shows, which I thought was super interesting because I always knew reality shows were fake. Let's be honest, we go and we watch The Bachelor, we watch Love is Blind, we watch Too Hot to Handle, for example, right? I know when I'm watching, I actually found this pretty interesting, but I listened to Harry Jowsey on the Call Her Daddy podcast, and I love both of them. I think that they've made great careers, and they're very smart, and they're very marketable people. But what I found super interesting was in that podcast, Harry basically just said that he faked a character to get on the show. So he literally just he sent in nude pictures of himself. And obviously we don't know the validity of this, right? We don't know how true it is. He could be making something up to kind of portray this character of his. Fine. But let's say that is the truth. He sent in nude pictures of himself, and he just kind of, I guess, was portraying this bad boy character, which I found was super interesting to hear that he went into the show so guns blazing. He didn't give a fuck. He did not care about, his image, and he was I want to be on this reality show. I don't care what I have to do. I'm going to do it. I'm going to accomplish it, and even if that means that I have to send in nudes to the producer because that is going to get their attention, which I thought was crazy. Conventional TV and normal media, you go through an audition process. You're not supposed to do that. They ask you to wear minimal makeup, clothing that's super plain, and then you go and you stand in front of a blank wall and you're trying to portray this character as calmly as possible. And then on the other side you have reality TV where Harry is sending in nude pictures of himself to get the attention of producers, which is insane to think about. Just how far somebody would go for fame, which props to him. He made it. He did what he had to do. Good for him. But at the same time, it kind of makes you think how different reality TV is. With regular TV, it's a story. There is a writer, there's a producer behind the scenes. There's a director that's telling how every shot has to be laid out. When you're watching a TV show, it's not real. Reality show, it's supposed to be reality, but it's not. It's all fabricated and it's all made up. And it just goes to show how extreme people are willing to take it to make it a reality, but it's actually all made up. So it's TV on coke. That being said, Netflix has been in a little bit of hot water recently. Well, I didn't know this. By recently, I mean earlier this year. I didn't know that they had a lawsuit by some of the Love is Blind castmates against Netflix. I think this happened back in like March or April, but I find it very interesting that like after like 5 seasons, somebody's coming and speaking out against this. I honestly wish that I could even have like a castmate on and we could discuss, and just to kind of see like the difference between maybe season 1 cast versus like the latest season cast, or just how people might have perceived the experience differently. Like maybe somebody that goes on with the understanding that they're playing a character and this is reality show and it's not going to be real, versus somebody that's kind of expecting to go through like an actual experiment. I don't know. I guess people's like perceptions of reality TV are so different that like I wish that I was able to get people on the podcast to kind of actually hear their experience, but this is just going to be my opinion on the situation. So take it with a grain of salt, because this is definitely not just, there's no validity behind any of the statements that I'm about to make. And it's just going to be a streamline of thoughts as a viewer and as a lover of reality TV. When I started digging into Love is Blind, and particularly the lawsuit that came out from, some of the contestants on Love is Blind, like their most recent season, I think, and how they were basically saying that they were like sleep deprived, they weren't given enough meals or breaks, and basically they were like treated as contractors. They weren't following the correct labor laws, and they were saying that they were basically contractors so that they could pay them at like a very low rate and, get away with it. And I don't know. The biggest thing that I got out of this was just how interesting the dichotomy is of like you signing up to like be on a reality show versus coming out of the reality show and then filing a lawsuit against Netflix for this. And then also as like a viewer and an audience member, we don't know all of this. We literally have zero idea what's going on behind the scenes. We don't even know if this lawsuit that was filed is legit, as in like, is it press? I have no idea. Is it a PR stunt? I have no idea. And it's just so crazy to think like how intertwined just regular media and how fake like social media is, and like how literally how fabricated all of it is, and then also just like TV. The mixing of the two is just crazy in the world that we live in. It is, after all, supposed to be an experiment. I don't obviously call it an experiment, because in an experiment you are in a controlled setting and you literally have dependent and independent variables, and you're trying to measure like the outcome of these variables that you're changing, which is not the case. It's not like an authentic experiment, because you're going in and we don't know anything. There's like a freaking unreliable narrator happening, and we don't know anything, and we're just watching it. We don't know what they're changing. We don't know what the variables are. So yeah, it's not really an experiment. I think it's fun. I think out of everything that I have noticed is you get to see how shallow and fake people are, because I don't think Love is Blind, and to see people basically prove that and prove that like love is not blind is, I guess, fulfilling. It's a show, it's drama. You get to watch that people are fake and they actually do care about looks, which I think is also important to note. But I just find it so incredibly crazy that, we have people that are like Harry Jowsey, right? That go in and they know exactly what they're signing up for. They build a character and they are totally like into the character when they sign up for this show. And then you have people that are like suing Netflix for it being so fabricated. So it's kind of crazy to see like that kind of difference. And then we as the audience are like, well, is this whole thing made up? You're a lawyer. The person that created the lawsuit is a lawyer. Is this just part of like your PR character? Is this just a stunt? We may never know. I think that the entire lawsuit might be like a little bit extreme. I'm not sure. Like, I would honestly take it with a grain of salt. I'm sort of trying to like give my take on it. I'm obviously not exposing because I wasn't part of the show in any way. But from an objective viewer, I feel like the lawsuit is a little bit extreme. Yeah, maybe circumstances weren't kind of in their favor, but that's kind of a given when you're signing up for a Netflix reality show. I think that like labor laws can be improved, and that's the whole point of the strike, which brings me into another point of how this is specifically affecting the future of TV and non-union workers, because reality TV, they're all non-union, they're all unscripted. You're not part of any sort of union that's going to have your back, that you're not allowed to, shoot for or do promo for. This is also the push that Netflix is kind of moving towards. I feel like Netflix is becoming the new MTV, and it's great. There was a new movie that just came out where it's an interactive experience. Choose Love or Pick Love or something like that. Laura Marano is in it, and then like a couple other people, which I thought was super cool. It's kind of like a video game. You get to choose your character and like choose your ending and like see how it plays out, which is a very unique experience. And I think that's sort of the direction that Netflix is heading towards. But like speaking specifically on reality TV, Netflix is like the new MTV. Let's be honest. I feel like if the Kardashians were smart, they would probably not have signed with Hulu, and they would have signed with Netflix, because that's just the best like hosting service for reality TV right now. And I don't think people watch any other, okay, maybe I need to correct myself. I feel like there are very limited options in terms of like shows and movies, especially with the strike that's going on right now, that's going to be popping up on Netflix that people are actually interested in. And it's just going to be one of those things that people want to come back for the drama. People want to come back for that like MTV experience. So I think from a marketing standpoint, this is like such a power move by Netflix. This is unscripted. They don't have to worry about the writers. And then also they don't have to worry about the actors because they're not signed with anything, which is incredible to think that this is kind of like they're going to boom like with reality TV. Going back to Love is Blind, because this isn't about all of TV and Netflix, I think that this lawsuit is incredibly interesting. And I think it probably might start some sort of like trend that we see with reality TV, shining the light on, I guess, the labor practices that are going on over there, especially with like unscripted non-union workers. But at the same time, it's like, are you just doing this for like further fame? Like, if I think about anybody from Too Hot to Handle, they kind of blow up on social media afterwards, and they either handle it extremely well and they move on to like do incredible things, or they kind of like die down and that's it. And then you have the other people like this, where maybe they didn't find the success that their other co-stars found on social media, so they're turning to other avenues to kind of fly off of that. Not saying that this lawsuit isn't real, but also like maybe it's not, and maybe they just didn't find success on Instagram and TikTok like the rest of the castmates, and they're just trying to milk their time on the show, and trying to like, get fame that way. Either way, it does shine the light and it kind of raises questions on the labor practices that go on behind the scenes. So Netflix, watch out. I think this is something that you're gonna have to probably address in some way, shape, or form, especially with the new season dropping. I am in love with the fact that the new season is back on track with the experiment part of the show. So they actually are probably looking to settle down. I find it so annoying when I watch a reality show and they're like, I want to be committed, but they're 20 years old. That's not going to happen. That's not real. And pretending as though it is just like fooling no one. So I'm happy that, the new cast is kind of more updated to fit the experiment guidelines. And I think it should be interesting to watch, especially with kind of like the last season and everything that happened, the aftermath of the last season. I think it'll be interesting to see how this season pans out, how they do promo for this season, kind of like if they show off more of the unedited scenes. I'm going to be interested to see if they do that. if like, coming in, they show more of the people that aren't coupled up. I always find it crazy that like you have so many people that come into the pods and then only so many people leave to like pair up. What happens to the rest of them? Like, I would love to see this season what the heck happens with those people. Like, they just kind of disappear and vanish and we never hear from them again. The last season we saw a couple of them trickle in during like the reunion episodes, the like last episodes, but it was just like thrown in. I don't even remember their names. So it would be kind of interesting to see like, where their stories lie, where those sort of like finish without cutting them off totally. I don't know. Then it starts to feel like more disconnected for me. So I think that's something that I'm looking forward to. Looking forward to the fact that they're more of age of like actual marriage material. Like if they're in their 30s and they're settled down, like you're probably looking to get married. So that might affect the experiment a little bit more. I feel like people are going to be more committed to actually wanting to get married. So maybe the pairings might work a little bit differently. But then also, again, overall, like to see the drama unfold. I think the last 2 seasons were very extremely messy. Just so messy. And not in the way that like, I think the reason why this show blew up in the first place was because it was kind of like more on the like wholesome side. And I think the last 2 seasons were just extremely messy. And like, I don't want to see that happen again this season because then it just becomes too fake for me. So I think that's another thing that I'm looking forward to this season. And I honestly do think that the question at hand, whether love is blind, is something that I want to explore. Like, I actually want to know, is love blind? Like, I want to see success stories out of this, not just like 1 or 2 per like season. And I want to see like whether this actually can work. More so than just the drama. I don't know. I find it more interesting personally to see like if there's success and not just this person cheated on this person and all that kind of stuff. Because then again, for as a viewer, it's like, what's fake? What's real? What's scripted? What's not scripted? What's like clipped together? What's unedited? What's edited? Anyway, you guys get the picture. I would rather see the success stories than just like leave the show and just think, was that any of that real or was all of that fake? Anyway, this episode was super, super all over the place. I talked very fast. It's just some of the thoughts that I had as the new season approaches. But also, like, I recently found out about this lawsuit. I know that this happened back in April, but I thought it was very interesting to bring up because I never even knew about this. And I feel like a lot of people didn't hear about it either. So that was just my 2 cents on it. And, I'm excited to see this new season. I think I will probably do another analysis of this, maybe like after the season ends, just to see like if there was any sort of difference that happened and to see if there's any difference with Netflix, because they did have enough ample time to kind of rectify their mistakes, if there were any. I'm curious to see if they're going to take that into account, and yeah, we'll see how it goes. But there was no rhyme or reason for anything that I just said, but I hope you guys found it interesting regardless, and make sure to leave a like and a review down below because I would definitely appreciate it. And I'm planning to make this a little bit more consistent, so definitely subscribe, follow if you don't already. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed a little short, sweet episode of Passenger Princess this time. I need to figure out an outro. So till then, peace.